They found his car, but never found him on the evening of November the 14th, 2019. A man named David Ashworth left his office in the historic town of Keswick in the county of Cumbria, England. He told his colleagues he was driving home to see his mother, who lived in the village of Grasmere, some 11 miles to the south. It was a Thursday. The weather that night was cold, with intermittent rain and visibility reduced to less than half a mile along the winding country roads that connect the valleys of the Lake District. David Ashworth was 43 years old. He was a structural engineer, well-liked, with no known enemies, no financial troubles, and no history of erratic behavior. He owned a silver Volkswagen Golf, registration plate YJ19UZX. At 6:45 that evening, he was captured on CCTV pulling out of the car park beside his office. That would be the last confirmed image of David Ashworth, alive or otherwise, for the next 5 years and counting. His mother, Patricia Ashworth, reported him missing on the morning of November the 16th, a Saturday. She told police she had expected him for dinner on the Thursday evening and had called his mobile several times without answer. When he failed to arrive on Friday, she assumed work had kept him busy. By Saturday morning, worry had turned to alarm. Officers from Cumbria Constabulary visited Patricia at her cottage on Stock Lane and immediately flagged the case as high concern. The roads David would have taken that night, the A591 and then the A590, are narrow, unlit in places, and border several steep drop-offs. They are treacherous in bad weather. A missing vehicle on those roads is treated as a potential fatality until proven otherwise. The search began with the roads themselves. On the morning of November the 17th, a police helicopter swept the route between Keswick and Grasmere, flying low enough to scan the terrain on either side. At 11:23 in the morning, the pilot reported something unusual in a levee on the southern side of the A591, near a hamlet called Thrushwood. It was a silver Volkswagen Golf. The registration matched. The car was found approximately 4 miles from Grasmere, parked partly on the grass verge, its front driver's side bumper slightly scuffed as though it had grazed a stone wall. The doors were locked. The ignition was off. The keys were not inside. There was no sign of David Ashworth. Forensic teams arrived within the hour. They documented the vehicle in situ before opening each door, each boot, each compartment. The car was immaculately maintained. There were no signs of a struggle. No blood, no hair, no fibers that did not belong to David Ashworth himself. His briefcase was on the passenger seat, containing his laptop, a notebook filled with engineering calculations, and a brown paper bag with the logo of a Keswick bakery. His phone was not in the car. His wallet was not in the car. His coat was not in the car. Whatever had happened to David Ashworth, it had not happened inside that vehicle. The question that immediately consumed the investigation was straightforward. Where was the man himself? The car had been found less than a mile from a pub called the Britannia Inn, a popular stopping point for walkers and locals alike. The landlord, a man named Raymond Cope, confirmed to officers that he had been working on the evening of November the 14th. He remembered the weather being particularly nasty, rain lashing the windows, he said, and the fire lit in the bar. He recalled no customers between 8 and 9 o'clock, though he could not be certain. The pub closed at 11. There were no reports of anyone seen walking the roads that night, no reports of distress, no calls to emergency services from the area. It was as though David Ashworth had simply ceased to exist the moment he left his office, somewhere in the 4 miles between there and his mother's house. Detectives traced David's mobile phone signal that evening, using data obtained from his network provider. The last ping came at 7:04 in the evening, from a cell tower near the village of Rydal, less than a mile from where the car would later be found. The signal did not move after that. It did not connect to any Wi-Fi network. It was as if the phone had been turned off or the battery had died at precisely the moment David Ashworth vanished. Detectives searched the surrounding area with dogs and volunteers, fanning out across the fields and woodlands that slope down toward the River Rothay. They found nothing. No body, no trace, no indication of what had befallen him. The investigation then expanded in other directions. Detectives interviewed David's colleagues, his friends, his former partners. They examined his financial records, his communications, his online activity in the weeks before his disappearance. They found nothing to suggest he was in trouble, nothing to suggest he had planned to leave, nothing to suggest anyone wanted him harm. His mother told investigators that David had seemed his usual self in their last phone call, which had taken place on the morning of November the 13th, the day before he vanished. They had spoken about a birthday dinner she was planning for the following month. He had promised to come. 8 months passed. The case was reviewed periodically. Detectives pursued several lines of inquiry, each one leading to a dead end. They considered the possibility of an accident, that David had stepped out of his car to examine something and fallen into one of the many ravines that line the road. But the terrain was searched thoroughly, and no evidence of a fall was ever found. They considered the possibility of suicide, that David had walked into the darkness deliberately, wanting not to be found. But his life, as far as anyone could determine, offered no sign of despair. He had recently been promoted. He had plans to remodel his mother's cottage. He had mentioned to a colleague that he was looking forward to Christmas. They considered the possibility of foul play, and this is where the investigation took a curious turn. In February of 2020, a woman came forward with information. Her name was withheld, but she told detectives that she had been walking her dog on the morning of November the 15th, the day after David Ashworth was reported missing, along a footpath that runs parallel to the A591 near Rydal. She said she had found something unusual, a man's watch, silver with a black face, lying in the grass about 30 meters from the road. She had picked it up, looked at it, and uncertain what to do, had put it in her pocket and forgotten about it. She had only remembered it months later, she said, when she heard about the case on the news. The watch was submitted for forensic examination. It belonged to David Ashworth. It had been purchased 3 years earlier from a jeweler in Keswick, a gift to himself after completing a major project. The glass face was cracked. The time had stopped at 7:08 in the evening. The discovery of the watch, so close to where the car was found, suggested that David had been outside his vehicle at some point after 7:04 when his phone last pinged. It suggested he had walked, or been taken at least 30 meters from the road before whatever happened next. But the watch told investigators nothing about where he had gone afterward. It offered no answer to the question that haunted the case: why was there no body? The Lake District in winter is not a forgiving place. The moors are vast, the bogs are deep, the hills are unforgiving. But a man does not simply disappear into thin air. There is always a trace, always a clue, always something left behind. With David Ashworth, there was nothing. In the years since, the case has remained open. Detectives have revisited it multiple times, following up on tips and theoretical leads, but none have yielded results. Patricia Ashworth still lives in Grasmere. She still maintains her son's bedroom exactly as he left it, waiting, she has told reporters, for him to walk through the door. She attends memorial services each year on the anniversary of his disappearance. She has never stopped believing he will be found. The silver Volkswagen Golf was returned to the family and eventually sold. The keys were never recovered. The watch is in the evidence archive, its cracked face frozen at 7:08, a time that may or may not have any significance. The last confirmed sighting of David Ashworth is him driving away from his office on a cold November evening, the rain falling, the road ahead dark and unlit. His car was found. His watch was found, but David Ashworth himself was never found. And to this day, no one knows what happened to him on those 4 miles of winding road between Keswick and Grasmere, or where he is now.